Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. In today's session of correlation and regression, we will be looking at the strength of various currencies against the dollar. We are seeing the dollar on the back foot for most part of European trading session, and as the US session is going to get underway very soon, we will have to make a reassessment of the current situation and how things are expected to unfold. So this is your host Vaibhav, and I will be taking you through the relative comparison of the strength and weaknesses of the major currencies against the dollar, and also we will be taking a look on the developments in the equity segment as well as on the commodity side. So let us now head to the JForex for the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the Euro USD chart drawn on the 5 minute time frame where I have added the range of 2 hours on and the 4 hours, and for figuring out the average pricing over the last couple of hours I have also added the SMA of 12 and 24 with this candle period of 5 minutes. That means we have the moving average of last 1 hour and the moving average price of last 2 hours in place, and here the range defined for last 4 hours as well as for last 2 hours. Now the job at hand is to figure out the strength and weaknesses of these various currencies against the dollar, and if we take a simple view of the development so far in today's European, and if we go back in time in the Asian trading session, then we have this simple charting where the evidence is pointing to the bullishness in the euro. It has gotten itself back closer to the parity. At one point in time, it had even climbed above the parity, but now it is a little bit on the lower side, but it is quite strong even now. And I think as long as this immediate low holds of around 0.9966, we can still take the bait for a further move on the upper side, and we might even see these days high, the prior high, being vested in coming hours. So that is my assessment looking at this current scenario for Euro USD, and that is simply pointing to the continuation of the trend with the formation of higher highs and higher lows. That means we should be looking for opportunities to go long, not short in the case of Euro USD, and we can expect a move beyond 1.00 in next couple of hours. Now the thing is, we have to determine how weak the USD is and how strong the euro, or for that matter other currencies, are against the dollar. So we are in a better position to take the trade in an optimum situation so as to make sure that we have the highest possible probability of making money and not losing money. So for comparative purposes, we have to take into consideration various currency crosses. So one by one, we will take a look on the major currencies like AUD, GBP, JPY, NZT, and CHF, CAD, all these major currencies against the dollar, and we will see which is the best bet for the strength, continuation of the strength of these currencies against the dollar, or you can say weakness of the dollar, as that is our primary assessment of the current scenario. That dollar is likely to remain on the weaker footing going ahead for at least next couple of hours unless there is any significant turnaround and formation of a lower low. Now, if we take a look in the case of AUD USD, here we have this AUD USD with new high having been formed just a couple of minutes back. In last hour, we had it forming the new high for the day. That clearly means it is on the stronger side compared to the Euro USD, as Euro USD hasn't really gotten itself to cross the prior high. It is still struggling closer to this prior high. And if we look at this low, the 2 hourly lows, when these lows were made, we had this 2 hourly low being touched at 12:55 GMT. And let us see what was the development for AUD USD. The AUD USD made a low at 14:20 GMT. So of course, if you are looking for a buy trade, then it is better to go for the AUD USD instead of Euro USD for comparative purposes. Now, we also have to consider other currencies, and only after that we can have a clearer picture of these developments in the forex market. For GBP USD also, we saw the new 2-hour low being made at 14:20 GMT. So this is also looking quite stronger compared to the Euro USD. And let's see what's the development in NZD USD. NZD USD didn't really make a 2 hourly low. It went pretty close to that, but after that it has been able to hold its ground, and it even went on to form a new high. So it looks like that NZD is much more of an upper side momentum instrument compared to GBP USD or Euro USD. It is somewhat similar to AUD USD. For CAD, we will have to reverse the scale. Now here we have to start looking for opportunities to go short and not long, as the dollar is the first currency and CAD is the base currency here. And in case of USD CAD also, the 2 hourly high was made around the similar time as with the case of GBP USD, AUD USD, and NZD USD. So there is not much of a difference, but it didn't really make a fresh new low with a strong difference. So in that case, the AUD USD and NZD USD is a winner in terms of the strength of the trend. For USD CHF, the momentum looks quite strong for USD CHF compared to other currency crosses, and it has remained continuously on the bearish side, and it didn't even make a 2 hourly high. So of all the currency crosses we have seen against the dollar, the USD CHF seems to be the strongest one. CHF is the strongest of all these other major currencies, as we have the weakness prevalent in the USD, and for that USD CHF I think looks like the best bet. Before we confirm it, we have to just take a look on USD JPY, and USD JPY has also made a new day's low, but as I said, it had corrected somewhat more than the USD CHF, and USD CHF is actually continuing its strong momentum on the bearish side, and it is not even showing much of a reversal from the lows. So I would say that if we have to take any currency bait for the weakness of the USD in that scenario, the USD CHF is going to be a clearer winner. We can expect this momentum to continue to remain on the bearish side, and next lows can be expected in next couple of hours. New lows can be pretty much expected. Now let us see the scenarios for equity segment. For equity segment, we have this Dow Jones Industrial Average now consolidating closer to 32,500 after having rallied from 32,200 closer to that level, and it went on to climb. Earlier in the day, after the start of European trading session, we saw these sharp moves on both the sides. First, we had this correction of almost 200 points on the lower side, but it stabilized and it reversed course, and now we have the formation of new high. The day's high has been made at around 32,600, and after that this consolidation phase is ongoing, where the correction has been pretty shallow. We can expect this correction to turn into a consolidation phase, and in course of time we can expect these Dow Jones Industrial Average to climb back toward these days high. But for that, it of course has to first hold on to these 4 hourly low. It shouldn't really decline much from the current levels, and if we are to expect it to continue to trade with bullish momentum, for that we will of course have to make sure that the trade, if we are going for any, should be taken only if this prior low upwards and we have the consolidation for at least half an hour or 1 hour with levels closer to this 32,500 holding well, and in that scenario we can expect this momentum to then take then get a fresh lease of life, and in course of time the moves beyond 32,600 can be pretty much expected. So here the momentum is pretty much in line with what we saw in the currency sphere, where most of the major currencies are getting stronger against the dollar. The dollar is on the back foot, and similar story is also unfolding for the key equity index of the US, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now, for comparative purposes, we also have to see if we are going to go for the long trade in any equity index. Then first we have to determine the relative strength and the weaknesses of all these indices. For that, we will have to first compare these Dow Jones Industrial Average price moves with the average price moves of the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. So here we have this S&P 500 momentum with consolidation closer to the 30 3,780, and it is consolidating well, though it is still making newer lows. 4 hourly low was made, but if we look at it from earlier in the day, then this climb was pretty sharp. In relation to that, this decline has not been that significant. I think it is more of one part of the shallow correction and consolidation. So here the momentum still appears to be strong. We can't be sure, but it is of course appearing to be still strongly on the bullish side. So for any trade to be initiated, we have to first figure out which is the strongest base bet for this bullish segment to be exploited, and in that case we will have to do the comparison between Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So far, I think we have the case of Nasdaq taking the upper hand, as we have these all three key equity indices on similar trajectory of rising bullish momentum. But if we consider its low formation, then the S&P 500 had gone on to make a fresh 4 hourly lows, whereas for Nasdaq, it hasn't really declined that much. It is holding quite well, and it is still above the 4 hourly low. So that is one thing which we have to keep in mind. And also, if we go back in time, then we can also look at factors like when the crossover took place and when these new highs were made. So for Nasdaq, this consolidation crossover, the corrective crossover, happened at around 14:30 GMT, and we will do the comparison and see what was the development point for similar action anywhere else. So here it happened around 14:45 GMT. For Nasdaq it was 14:30 GMT, and for S&P 500 it will be slightly different. That's my guess, and it is 14:35 GMT. So not much of a difference, but still the difference is significant, as we have the most bullish momentum in the Nasdaq, where this correction happened at the last. Now coming to the prior price formation, we saw this high being made around 10:30 GMT earlier in the morning, and if we now compare the S&P 500 price momentum, it was also made around 10:30 GMT. For S&P 500 it was 10. For Nasdaq it was slightly early at 25, and for Dow Jones it was at 10:30. So there is not much of a difference, but here that difference becomes much more evident comparatively, not absolutely. But we can exploit that, even though the momentum is still on the continuation side of these trends. Still we have to be careful as to get the optimum entry and exit points. So in that quest, we can take help of these pricing dynamics and try to then figure out the optimum entry point. So here for any buy trade in the S&P 500, Nasdaq, or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I think we can take these factors as we have discussed, the moving average and the price range in mind. And if we have not really seen anyone looking at these correction as a much more than a correction, or you can say a turnaround trend change. If you haven't really thought about it, then you can still sit tight, and if for next half an hour or so till the start of US trading session we can expect the volatility to remain low, and in this next couple of minutes we will get much more clarity, much more pronounced price moves after the start of US trading session, and as a result of that we will have clear cut directional moves and we will be in better position to judge. So my bet is that if we have these price moves taking bullish momentum and jumping on the higher side, then buy entry anywhere around or above 3785 should be a good idea. And as I said, of the three key equity indices, the Nasdaq looks the strongest one, as we had the formation of a fresh low on the 4 hourly time frame for S&P 500 as well as for the Dow Jones. But for Nasdaq, it is still strongly bullish, and no, I think this is S&P 500 chart. So here, as you can notice, no 4 hourly low has been made here. So this is one way to interpret these pricing dynamic data and try to figure out the correlation, and using regression, then you can optimize your entry and exit points. So for today's session, if you are going to go for a long in the equity side, then Nasdaq is the bet to take. And at the same time, you can also take a look on other key equity indices across the Europe, like FTSE 100, CAC 40, and the DAX 40. And we also have the Euro area stock index of 50 shares, 50 stocks, 50 companies. So let us see. Here the momentum is on the bearish side, and it is weaker compared to the key equity indices for US. For DX, the things are looking a bit brighter. For 50, here also things look a bit on the brighter side. We had this sharp correction, and after that a sharp move, and after that this correction has been pretty shallow. There has not been any significant decline in these price dynamics of the EU stock 50. So here it looks like that the best bet, if you are going for any equity index of the United States, in that scenario Nasdaq will be the best bet to take for the long trade. And if you can take other equity indices from around the world, so in that scenario the EU stock 50 looks a brightest spot for all these key equity indices. So the choices for you are these two equity indices, and you have to decide which one to go for, as we can expect the Nasdaq to be much more volatile after the start of US trading session compared to what we are looking at. So EU stock 50 index is not likely to move much, so that is also one reason to stay invested or get invested in the Nasdaq. So for today's session, I think we should stop early. I tried to use the price dynamics and figure out the possible moves which can be made in forex market as well as in the equity index market. So you can trade all these instruments we have talked about on these very same platform, the JForex 4 platform. So give it a try and let me know how it works out for you. I will be back tomorrow with, of course, the new explanation, new possibilities, new price dynamics to discuss on. Thank you all for joining in. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.